right? So let us start with a recap. Okay, so yesterday, what we had started our discussion with was something called an equivalence class. Okay, so what are equivalence class? Equivalence class you define first. For defining an equivalence class, you need to have an equivalence relation. Okay, you need to have a relation R, which is an equivalence relation defined on some set A. Okay, then once you know that the relation is equivalence, then you can define equivalence classes. Okay, so what are equivalence classes? Equivalence class of any element X in that set A is basically set of all those elements S such that the ordered pairs X comma S are in R. That is, set of all those elements which are related to this element X via R, that set forms the equivalence class of that set, right? And then we saw something called a quotient set of a set. So quotient set of say set A with respect to relation R was set of all the equivalence classes of the elements in set A. Okay, so if you make a set of all the equivalence classes of a set, that is what makes your quotient set, right? After that, what we did, we discussed something called partitions. Okay, what was a partition of a set? A partition of a set A was a collection of subsets which satisfied the three properties. One is that each partition should be non-empty. Second is that if I take any two partitions, they should be disjoint, that is, their intersection should be 5. And third is that if I take the union of all the partitions, it should give me the set itself, right? And we saw that if we take equivalence class of a set, they also form a partition, right? Because they are non-empty, because at least every equivalence class is going to have the element itself, and these two properties also naturally come for equivalence class. So there we establish this relation, these between the equivalence class and partition. That is, equivalence class set of equivalence classes of a set forms the partition of that set, right? After that, what we started discussing was something called a special kind of relation called a partial order relation, or something called a partial ordering. Okay, and the set on which this is defined is known as partially ordered set or poset, right? What were the three properties that we have for partial ordering? If we say that a relation R defined on set A is a partial order, what are the three properties that it should satisfy? Partial order. So this is the only thing which is not actually in partial order. Okay, so first is, of course, it should be reflexive, it should be transitive, and the second one is not symmetric but anti-symmetric. Very good. Okay, then we say some relation is a partial ordering, or and the corresponding set is a poset, right? So what we'll be discussing today are some more versions of the relations, which will be different combinations of these three properties, and then we'll see the pictorial representation of posets. Okay, so let us start. Okay, so this is your partial ordering relation. A partial order or a partial ordering relation is one which is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive. Okay, and we discuss less than equal to subset. All of them are partial orders. Okay, for general sets. Right now, today what we start with is another special kind of order, which is known as pre-order or Cauchy order. Okay, so let us see what is this pre-order or Cauchy order. So pre-order or Cauchy order, so given a relation R on a set S, if it satisfies the following two properties, it is reflexive. Okay, and now by now I assume you are very much familiar what is reflexive. And if it is transitive, okay, so if any relation on a set satisfies these two properties, it's reflexive and transitive, such a relation is known as a pre-order or a Cauchy order. Okay, So just for your reference, I will write here a partial order. Partial order was reflexive, anti-symmetric, and transitive. Okay, but now any order or any relation which satisfies just reflexive and transitive, it is known as pre-order or Cauchy order. Right? Can you give me any examples of Cauchy order on general sets? Okay, I don't want to tailor sets around it for general relations. I guess Faisal yesterday mentioned one. Hasib also, I guess, mentioned one. So anyone, a relation which is reflexive as well as transitive. Yes, class. You can't think of any relation which is reflexive and transitive. Okay, so before you come to an example, I want general relation. Okay, so this, what did you write? With A, B, B, C, C. But this is not reflexive, right? Because if there are elements B and C, you need to have B, B, C, C as well. Okay. So first of all, before we go to some general example, Zahura also gave some example. First of all, tell me if I have a suppose a partial order, okay, and I have a pre-order, which is contained in what? Which of them are contained in each other? Is pre-order contained in partial order or partial order is contained in pre-order? Remember, partial order is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive, and pre-order is just reflexive and transitive. Right? So, what is the containment? Right? Pre-order is contained in a partial order. Right? So that means any example that you have partial order, it is also a pre-order because the two properties are there. Right? So that means if I have less than equal to, it is also a pre-order. Right? Now you can consider the examples that yesterday, uh, like some of you have pointed. What about congruence condition of triangles? Is it a pre-order? Similarly, similarity of the two triangles or similarity relation. Are these two pre-orders? Okay, reason it out one by one, right? Uh, every triangle we know is congruent to itself, so it's definitely reflexive. Similarly, if I have pairs A is congruent to B, B is congruent to C, then I know A is congruent to C, right? So congruence is definitely a pre-order. What about similarity? Similarity is also a pre-order, right? Because we are not here considered whether it's symmetric or anti-symmetric. We are just looking at two properties, reflexive and transitive, which is true, right? Because A is similar to A is similar to B, similar to C, directly means A is also similar to C, right? So both of them are good examples of being a pre-order or Cauchy order. Okay. Now, if instead of having this similarly less than or equal to is also a pre-order, now, instead of having this equal to, if I take a strict relation, that is, instead of reflexive, I want the relation to be irreflexive and transitive. Okay, so basically, what do I mean when I say irreflexive? Irreflexive means the a comma a pairs will not be there. That is, the equal to sign will not be there. Right? If I have less than equal to or subset relation, I want their strict versions. Right? Such kind of pre-order is known as strict pre-order. Right? Like we have this is less than equal to and this is strictly less than. Similarly, this is known as pre-order wherein equal to relation is also valid, and those pre-orders where you don't have equal to relation or it's not reflexive, instead it is irreflexive, that are known as strict pre-order. Okay, so one is pre-order which is reflexive and transitive, and the strict version is where the equal to ones or the identity pairs are not there, that is it's irreflexive. Okay, such kind of pre-orders are known as strict pre-orders. So here I can give an example which someone of you had said, like suppose I'll write A B B C A C, right? So there is no reflexive pair. So this could be a strict preorder. Okay, so any pair which is irreflexive and transitive is a strict preorder. Okay, is that clear? Preorder and a strict preorder, what is the difference? Yes, class, is this clear? Class, is this clear? The difference between pre-order and this? Okay, good. Now, let me just test your memory, what we have done so far. Now, if I say I have a pre-order, and in addition to pre-order, it also has antisymmetric property. What kind of order is that? Okay, so pre-order means it's reflexive, it's transitive. Excellent. It is partial order. Very good. And what about the other case? If I say the pre-order is also having symmetric property, then what kind of relation is it, or what kind of order is it? Excellent. Equivalence relation. Right? So this should give you an overall picture that you have first pre-order, then you have two separate kind of orders. One is your partial order, other is equivalence relation, depending on whether it is antisymmetric or symmetric. Okay. Now we'll see some more versions of it. Okay. Okay, now let us move ahead to some other kind of ordered sets called linearly ordered sets. Okay, so for that, let's first build the motivation part. So suppose I have a partially ordered set or coset, okay, which you already know is reflexive, it's antisymmetric and transitive. Okay, the set on which this relation is defined is known as coset. Okay, now if I consider the elements of this coset, okay, so if I have A is, A precedes B, or I have B precedes A under this relation, okay, such kind of relations means they are comparable. Okay, so if I have some elements in a set, say A comma B comma C, and I can write this relation that A precedes B, or even vice versa, B precedes A. Such kind of elements are known as comparable elements. That is, I can compare them under this relation defined by the partial order. Okay, but if I cannot compare the elements, I write it as they are non-comparable. Okay, so when we talk about partially ordered set, the reason it's called partial is because in this it's not necessary that all elements are comparable to each other. Okay, that's why it's called a partial order. Okay, so now its extended version would be, what would be the extended version? So in partial order, what we have is all elements are not comparable. I mean, it's not necessary all elements are comparable. Okay, so it's not necessary all elements are comparable. Okay, and as I said, what do you mean by comparable? Comparable means you can write them uh, via this relation in this form, whether A precedes B or B precedes A. Okay, so in partial order, it's not necessary that all elements on which this relation is defined are comparable, right? So what would be the obvious generalization of it, right? What would we require if we want to have a complete generalization of it? Yes, class. In this, you have partial, right? Some elements may be comparable, some may not be comparable. So, what would be the obvious generalization of this? Yes, class. What would be the generalization? So, I told you what do you mean by when I say it's partial. Okay, it's partial in the sense only some elements are comparable. Okay, so what would be the obvious generalization? What is the generalization of some? It's in English. Yes, class. What is the generalization of some? If I say some of you have done the work, what is its generalization? Come on, class. Now, if I say some of you have done it, if I want to extend it, right, what is its generalization? It's obviously all, right? If I want a subset, and the generalization would be all, right? All students have done it, right? So similarly, like it was kind of a very obvious thing, but maybe you didn't get the way I asked it. So similarly, what we have is, if on the other hand every pair of element in the set is comparable, that is the generalization of partial order, and such a order is known as total order. Okay, so total order or linear order is also a partial order, that is, it's also reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive, but the only difference is, under this relation all elements should be related to or comparable to every other element. Okay, and such a set is known as a chain. Such kind of cosets are known as chain. Okay, and in general, let me just give you an example so that it's clear. So suppose I give you an example of a relation, which is divisibility relation on set of natural numbers. Okay, now I know 7 is comparable to 21, right, because 7 divides 21, right, but 3 does not divide 5. I'm just taking randomly natural numbers. Similarly, 2 does not divide 5. Okay, so if I take divisibility as a relation on natural numbers, so there are some numbers which are related or comparable, but there are certain numbers which are not relatable, right? So such kind of ordering is not a total order, right? Because all elements are not comparable. But now, if instead of n, the set of natural numbers, I reduce the set to a, which which consists of these four elements, 2, 6, 12, and 36. Okay, then is it a linear order or total order? See, what do you need to check for total order is all possible pairs of elements in this, they should be related by the given relation. Okay, in this case, is this a total order? Yes, it is, right? Because just take all possible combinations, 2, 6, 2, 12, 2, 36, 6, 12, 6, 36, 12, 36. So all are related to each other. Such kind of ordering is known as total ordering. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the relation less than equal to on whole set of natural numbers, this is also a total order. Why? Because we know every element has a unique relation. Every element is related to every other element, right? Like 1 is less than 2 also, 1 is less than 3 also, and so on, right? So this is also a total order. Okay, so what is a total order? Total order is a special case of partial order where all elements of the given set are related. Okay, so let me just check if you understood or not. So suppose I give you this set A, 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, and again the operation is divisibility. Is it a total order or a linear order? Relation is divisibility and set is A. Okay, so I get some yes, some no. It is actually no, right? Because if you take all possible pairs, 3 divides 6, 3 divides 9, 3 divides 12, it's fine. But 6 does not divide 9. 6 divides 12. So even if there is one which is non-comparable, so it's not a total order. Okay, it's a partial order. Okay, is this clear? Muzaffar, is this clear? Why this is not a total order? Okay, excellent. Okay, now tell me something. If I have a total order, what can you say about its subset? Okay, two things. First case is, if I have a partial order, what can you say about its subset? If I have a partial order, can you guarantee that its subset will be a total order or not? This one is simple. You cannot guarantee, because in partial order, every element we don't know is related to every other element. So there is no guarantee on its subset also. But what about this total order? If I have a total order, can I guarantee that its subset will also be a total order? Excellent. It is guaranteed, because if you have total order, means all elements are related to each other, so its subsets will also be, right? So this is something quite useful property. Okay, so what we saw so far was equivalence relation, then we saw a partial order, then we saw a pre-order, and then we saw a linear or total order. Okay, so the last order which is left out now is something called a well-ordered set. Okay, now let us see what is a well-ordered set. Again, it's something building upon total ordering. So a set S with a relation is said to be a well-ordered set if this relation is a total order, that is every element is related to every other element. And the important part, which makes it different, is this condition: every non-empty subset of S should have a least element. Okay, there should be some minimum element of that subset. Okay, let us see with examples. What do I mean? That S subset of S should have a least element under this relation. So if I take natural numbers n, okay, and I take the relation as strict less than equal to, okay, is this a well order? Okay, so we know it's a total order because every element is related to every other element, right? Now the question is, does every subset of natural number have a least element? Least means under this relation. Okay, so like if I take a subset of natural numbers, say 1, 3, 5, 6, does it have a least element under this relation? Yes. So if I take any subset of it, say suppose 70, 100, 50, 30, am I guaranteed to always have a least element? Any non-empty subset? Yes, I am guaranteed, right? So such kind of sets are known as well-ordered sets. Okay. Similarly, if I take ordered pairs of form uh, Z positive to Z positive with this relation, again here I am guaranteed to have a well ordered set, because there will always be some least element, right? Now let's look at this last. What do you think? Is this a well ordered set or not? It is definitely a total order, right? Is it a well ordered set or not? And if it is not, then why? Can you give me an example where this fails? Okay, Irpika says no, which is actually correct. It is not a ordering, but can you give me a counter example? Why did you say no? Because it satisfied this condition, this and this. Okay, only this is the questionable condition. No, that is perfectly okay. That, see, if you have a set, say 1 comma 1 comma 1, it has a least element. So 1 is itself the least element, right? Because it's less than or equal to. But try to see a counter example based on this. Can there be any subset of integers which does not have a least element? Think on those lines. Okay, this is not set of positive integers. This is whole bunch of integers. Can I have a counter example which is a non-empty subset of Z which will not have a linear ordering? Yes, class? Okay, let me make it easy for you. Suppose I take a subset of Z which is Z positive. Does it have a least element? Z positive means set of all positive integers. Does it have a least element? Yes or no? If yes, what is the element? If no, then it's fine. Okay. Does, first of all, class, Z Z's positive is a subset of Z, right? Because it is contained in Z, right? Now, for this non-empty subset, does it have a least element or not? Least under this relation. Come on, class, it's not that difficult. Just take the general Z. Very good, Hasib. It has the least element, right? Which is the positive one, right? Now, what about Z negative? Is this a subset of Z? Is this a subset of Z? Yes. Okay. So, what is its least element? What is its least element, class? Does it have a least element first? If it has, what is it? If it does not have, then let me know. What is the least element of Z negative under this ordering? That's not a defined value, right? That's not a, infinity is not a defined value, right? So actually it does not have a least element, right? So that's why Z is not a total order, because if I consider negative integers, which is a subset of Z, it has no least element. Okay. Is this clear? What is a well ordered set? What is a total ordered set? Okay, I'll just quickly summarize it so that you have it clear. So first we have a pre-order or quasi order, which is reflexive and transitive. Okay, and we have its strict version, strict pre-order, which is irreflexive and transitive. Okay, after that we have a partial order, which is reflexive, anti-symmetric, and transitive. Okay, and at same place we can have a equivalence relation, which is reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. Okay, in partial order, some elements may be comparable to others, but there's no guarantee that all will be related. Okay, so an extension of partial order is known as total order or linear order if all are comparable. Okay, and finally we had well ordered set, wherein all are comparable, that is it is a total ordering, but in addition we want every non-empty subset should have a least element. Okay, so this is the overall picture that we discussed: pre-order, partial order, total order, and well order. Okay, is this clear? Any issues in this? Yes, class, any issues in this? Is it clear? Right. Yes, non-empty subset should have a least element. Every non-empty set. That is correct. Yeah. Okay. So is this clear? Should we proceed? Yeah. Okay. So let us move to last kind of ordering, which is not any generalization of this, but kind of a tailored ordering, similar to what we have seen, but in context of the strings. Okay, and this is very important in our computer science because of the way we define identifiers in C programming or any programming language. Okay, so let us try to understand what is this lexicographic ordering. Okay, so given two SNT sets, which are linearly ordered sets, which means total ordered sets, then the following order relation uh, on a product set, on a Cartesian product, is said to be a lexicographical or a dictionary order if the following holds. Okay, so first difference from the sets we have already seen. Sorry, Irtika has some question. I will just move. Yes, it requires a least element, at least one element. Okay, like you can see, uh, any set you have, it needs to have at least one least element. Okay, so we'll see the diagrammatic representation of cosets today. So what we want is there should be some element which kind of covers all the elements above it. That's what is required for well ordered sets. Okay, so it's something like this. Like if I have, suppose, a class of students, okay, and I assign them marks. Okay, suppose it's opposite that what I want is there should be some least element. So in marks, the least element you can get is 0 because there's no negative marking. So what we require is there should be at least one least element of the given set, right? Like the best thing you can see is from this counter example. If you look at Z positive, it has a least element, which is 1, right? But at the same time, if you look at Z negative, it does not have a well-defined least element, right? But if you would have considered, suppose, opposite relation, right? In this case, would this have a least element? Irtika, Z negative? Yes, right? So that is what is required. You require at least one element on this. Okay, normally for finite sets you will always have such kind of settings, right? But if you have infinite sets, there you can get into trouble and you may not have a least element. Okay, is that clear, Irtika? Okay, great. Okay, so coming back to lexicographic ordering. So lexicographic ordering is also on linearly ordered sets. Okay, but the first difference is instead of using normal numbers or normal elements of set, we are focusing on Cartesian product. Okay, that means the elements we are dealing are ordered pairs. Okay, now suppose we have two ordered pairs, a comma b and a prime comma b prime. We say that it's a lexicographic order, which is denoted by these little tilted signs of less than, equal, less than, if the first elements have a strict relation. First element of this pair is strictly less than the first element of this. Okay, either this, or if they are equal, then the second dimension should at least follow the strict inequality. Okay, the two conditions: either the two ordered pairs first element is dominated by the other. If that is true, you don't need to check the remaining ones. But if the first element is same, then at least there should be some coordinate wherein it dominates. Okay, so in general, if I want to extend it to Cartesian product of n sets, so what we want is either first element dominates, or in general, if till k minus any k minus 1, the dimensions are equal, at least the last one should dominate. Okay, so every lexicographical order is also a linear or total order. Okay, let us see with the example directly. So suppose consider a set of strings which are the letters in English dictionary, and let us see what do you mean by lexical order. Now if you look at these two words, okay, so you can see the first 1 2 3 4 5 first 6 letters are exactly the same. Okay, that's what we meant. If the first is not showing strict inequality, then look at second, look at third, look at fourth. If they are equal, but at least there should be some element where it exceeds it. Okay, we can see that till this E, they are exactly same, right? But as soon as you look at the next element, we know E is dominated by T, right? So this is a lexicographic order. Similarly, if you look at this, all the first, all the digits of this are contained in this, right? So after this, there is no digit or alphabet, right? So definitely it is contained in this one. Okay, the way your dictionary is made. Similarly, in this you can see till discrete, it's same, but the next is E, whereas here is I, and we know E is dominated by I. Okay, so in general, you say lexicographic ordering or some relation is in lexicographic order if either in the first coordinate, okay, so either in the first coordinate you are being dominated by the other pair, Okay, so there you don't need to check the other coordinates, or if the first coordinate is same, just move to the next coordinate. Okay, and keep on doing it if it is same. Okay, such kind of ordering is known as lexicographic ordering. Okay, where you check this relation starting from the first coordinate. If first coordinate dominates, then it's already a lexicographic order. If first coordinate is same, then you need to ensure there's at least one coordinate where you will get this relation home. Okay, and as I said, this is very important when we define identifiers in C programming. Okay, is this clear? Lexicographic ordering? Yes, class, this is clear. What do we mean by lexicographic ordering? There's no new definition. Only thing is they are defining the order on a tuple now, on a Cartesian product. Okay, all right. So this basically finishes all different kinds of ordering. Right now, what we move on to next is the pictorial representation of these special sets. Okay, so let us move on to that. Okay, so consider S to be a partially ordered set. Okay, so just to recap, partially ordered set is that set on which we define a partial order. Okay, which is a relation which is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive. Okay, now when I consider any partially ordered set, okay, in general I can have the following relation. Suppose there are two elements. A is a predecessor of B, or we can say B is a successor of A, or it can be vice versa. Okay, in general, whenever we have to pictorially represent this relation, A is covered by B or B is covered by A, such kind of representations are done using something called a Hasse diagram. Okay, what is a Hasse diagram? Hasse diagram is kind of a directed graph of a partially ordered set, wherein you draw an edge whenever two elements are related via this relation. Okay, so if you recall, any relation can be represented by a directed graph. Okay, and a special version of this directed graph is a Hasse diagram. Okay, which we'll just see how to make that. Okay. So let us see how to make a Hasse diagram of a partially ordered set. Okay, so given a set S with a partial order relation, okay, so what you have to do first, you have to start with the directed graph of this relation. Okay, I assume everyone remembers how to make it. So for a how to make a directed graph of a relation is you make the nodes of all elements in the set. After that, you draw a directed edge whenever there is a element of form A comma B. Okay, and the arrow is always from the first element to second element. Okay, so you consider the directed graph of this relation. Okay, after that you take these three steps. What are the three steps? First step you do is you remove the reflexive loops. We know that partial order relations are reflexive. So first thing you do is you remove all the loops. Okay, the self loops. The self loops on all the nodes, you remove them. And we know for sure that every node will have a self loop because it's a partial order. Okay, so first step is to remove all the self loops. Okay, second step is remove all those edges which are there because of transitivity. Okay, that is, suppose I will give you an example. Suppose I have AB, BC and AC. Okay, so I have AB, BC and AC. Okay, so what you have to do, first step is remove these reflexive relations. Okay, second step is any edge which is there because of a transitive relation, remove that. Okay, so which edge should I remove on this graph? Yes, anyone? What is the transitive edge? Excellent, AC. So AC I have to remove. Okay, so I'll get the graph like this: A, B, and C. Okay, so first step, remove the self loops. Second step, remove all transitive edges. And third step is arrange all edges in such a form that initial vertex is below its terminal vertex. That is, you have A, B, and C. Okay, so whichever is the starting vertex, that should be at the lowest level, and your arrow should always be upward. Okay, in general Hasse diagrams, then what you do is you remove the arrows, because in general in Hasse diagrams it is understood that the arrows are always upwards. Okay, so there is no need to write the direction of arrow. Okay, so how do we create a Hasse diagram? We first take the directed graph of relation. Okay, we remove the self loops. After that, we remove the transitive edges. And last step is we arrange the edges in a form that all arrows are moving upwards, and then we remove the direction of arrows, because it is always understood that in Hasse diagram all edges are upwards. Okay, let us try to see it practically for an example. Okay, so suppose this is your Hasse diagram for on set 1, 2, 3, 4 under relation less than equal to. Okay, so since it's all of these are for partially ordered sets, so you have obviously reflexive relation, and you have this relation: 1 is less than 2, 2 is less than 3, 3 is less than 4, 1 is less than 3, 1 is less than 4, 2 is less than 3, 2 is less than 4. So this is the directed graph of the relation. Okay, so first step we do is we remove all these self loops. Okay, so all the self loops here we remove them, and then we remove the transitive edges. Okay, can you tell me what are the transitive edges in this? So we can see 1, 2, 2, 3. So 1 is 1, 3. Can you tell me others? 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3. What else do we have? Okay, 1, 3, 3, 4, 1, 4. Okay, good. 2, 2, 3 is not a transitive edge, right? 2, 3 is a direct edge. 1, 3 is there, 1, 4 is there. 2, 4 is also there, because we have 2, 3 and 3, 4, so 2, 4. Right, so if you basically all these edges will be removed. Okay, and what you are left with is this relation, and you remove the upward edges because it's understood. So this is your Hasse diagram. Okay, is this clear how to make a Hasse diagram? I'll show you one more example. So this is another partial ordering of sets A B such that A divides B. Okay, like 1 divides 2, 2 divides 4, 4 divides 8, 3 divides 6, 6 divides 12. So this is the relation or directed graph of this. Okay, so the how to make its Hasse diagram: remove all the self loops. After that, remove the transitive edges. Okay, so you can see some transitive edges: 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 1 to 4. Right, similarly I have 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 2 to 8. So all the transitive edges you remove, and you arrange it in the order that all arrows are upwards, so you get this diagram. Okay, so these will come with practice, but you just have to follow the general rules. You take the directed graph. Okay, first step is remove reflexive loops. Second is remove transitive pairs. Third is arrange them in an order that all arrows are upwards. Okay, let us try this one. So here, instead of a graph, I have given you relation. Okay, I want all of you to try it. Make the directed graph of this relation, and then make its Hasse diagram. Okay, you might be thinking, why is this important? We'll see a couple of important things which we can easily find out from Hasse diagrams. Okay, so I want all of you to try this. This is a relation, partial order relation defined on 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to draw its first directed graph. Okay, I'll be doing it in parallel, but I want all of you to attempt it on your own. Okay, so I have 4 elements, say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I want to make its directed graph. So I have 1, 1, I have 2, 2, I have 3, 3, I have 4, 4, then I have 2, 1, uh, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4. Okay, so So this is my relation, directed graph relation. Okay. Uh, just tell me what will be its Hasse diagram. You can tell me the ordered pairs since you cannot show to with me. Whoever has completed, just type in what will be the ordered pairs in the Hasse diagram since you cannot show it. Okay. So what is the first step? First step is remove the self loops. Okay. So I will remove the self loops. After that, I have to remove the transitive pairs. Right? What are the transitive pairs? So the transitive pairs are, let us see, one. Yeah, so we have two, one, or rather, let us see. So you have 4, 1. Oh, there is no other thing. So 3, 2, 2, 1. So you have 3, 2, 2, 1. So 3, 1. So 3, 1 you can remove, right? Similarly, you have what else do you have? So you have 3, uh, 3, 2, 2, 1, and you have 4, 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, right? So what all is left? We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, and we have 4, right? Now if I have to make, oh great, Abhay tried it using this. Uh, but okay, so I have 1, very good. I have 2, and I have 3 and 4 on same level, right? So this is the Hasse diagram. I have 1, right? So did everyone get the same diagram? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Because all arrows are assumed to be upwards. Is this clear how to make a Hasse diagram? Yes, class, is it clear? Please say a yes or no because I would like to complete at least its main parts. Okay, great. Okay, now let us see where this Hasse diagram is used. Okay, so let us define various kinds of elements in the Hasse diagrams. So, so given a partially ordered set, we call an element to be a maximal element if it is not less than any element of the coset. Okay, that is, A is said to be a maximal element if there is no B such that it precedes A. Okay, so any element which does not have any element preceding it under the given relation, that is known as maximal element. Okay, similarly, the minimal element is that element if it is not greater than any element of the coset. That is, the lowest possible element in your coset is known as your minimal element. Okay, there is no element below it. Okay, so if you look at Hasse diagram, the topmost and bottommost elements are what makes your maximal and minimal elements, right? So any element at the top of your Hasse diagram is your maximal element, and any element at the bottommost element of your Hasse diagram is known as your this, what you say, the minimal element. Okay, now suppose S is infinite. Okay, can I define its maximal or minimal element? Suppose the set S on which this coset is defined is a infinite set, which is possible, right? I can define a coset on this. Right? So in general, S may have no minimal or maximal element, right? Because so it is possible, Hasib, only if you take subsets of it. But if you consider set as its whole, you may not have a maximal or minimal element. right? But in a finite set, you are guaranteed to have a maximal, at least one maximal and minimal element. So Hasi, when I'm talking about S, I'm not talking about its subsets, right? If I take S as an infinite set itself, then I may not have a minimal or maximal element, right? Because it's not defined. If I consider the set as whole, right? Now, can you tell me what are the minimal and maximum elements of this set? Okay, and the relation is divisibility. Okay, I mean, there are different ways to do it. Long way is you make the relation, make all possible ordered pairs of this, then make its Hasse diagram. From Hasse diagram, it will be clear, right? But since it's a simple one, you can directly also make a Hasse diagram. Okay, so Hasib already wrote one. Maximal. Okay, so there are two approaches to do this. Okay, one is you write the relation, all possible ordered pairs. Okay, like you have 2 divides 2, 2 divides 4, 2 divides 12, 2 divides 20, and so on. Write all the ordered pairs, make its directed graph, make the Hasse diagram out of it, and then see what are the top and bottom elements, right? But since this is a easy relation, we can easily make a Hasse diagram of it directly also, right? 2 divides 4, 4 divides 12, right? Similarly, 5 divides 10, 10 divides 20, and you have some cross connection also, because 4 divides 20, 2 divides 10, 5 divides 25, right? Now if you look at just directly the Hasse diagram, it's very easy to see the maximal and minimal elements, right? What are the minimal elements? Both 2 and 5 don't have any element lower than them, right? So 2 and 5 are your minimal elements. Similarly, what are your maximal elements? Okay, you cannot say just 12 and 20, right? Don't go by the order. Okay, 25 also does not have anything above it. Okay, so all three of them form your maximal elements, right? So in general, what we can conclude from this example is a poset can have more than one maximal element, even minimal element, right? So it's not necessary to just have one, right? So what is a maximal element? Maximal element is one, like in terms of Hasse diagram, if I want to see maximal element, it is that element which does not have an edge above it, right? Similarly, the minimal element is which does not have a edge below it. Okay, is that clear, class? How do you identify the maximal and minimal element? Yes, class? Okay, so let us see some more versions of it. Okay, so next versions of it are first or the least element, last or the greatest element. Okay, so it's a kind of variation of what we saw minimal and maximum. So an element A in S is said to be first element if for every, okay, so there's a constraint. For every element in X, A is precedes every other element. Okay, so definitely first and last element will always be unique. So what we want is every element should be greater than it. Okay, similarly the last element or the greatest element is one if nothing succeeds. Okay, you can say if all elements are less than this given element B, only then we can say it is the last or the greatest element. Okay, so if it is something which is let me show with the example itself. So like consider this example, right? So in general, what you have is before I go to this example, maximal and minimal elements, if the set is finite, then for sure you will have at least one maximal and minimal element, right? But what about the least and greatest element? Is it a surety that any finite set will definitely have a element of which is first or last? What do you think? Is this a surety that given a finite set, it will definitely have a first element. Okay, remember this condition. Every element should be less than it, or every element should be greater than it. So can we have a surety for every finite set the greatest or the last element can exist? We cannot have a surety, right? Because if there are more than one, then definitely there is no least element or first element, right? So let us see with these examples. Okay, so for this A, does the least element exist? Okay, let us start with this. What is the minimal element? Is there a minimal element, and what is it? Minimal is A, and what are the maximal elements? What are the maximal elements? B, C, and D. Excellent. Uh, does the least element exist? What is it? It's A, right? And does the greatest element exist? Greatest element means all elements in that set exceed it. No. Why? Because there are three which are equal. You cannot write, there's no relation between B, C, and D, right? Similarly, for this, what are the minimal elements? A and B. Maximal elements? C, E, and D. Is there a least or greatest element? No. Excellent. What about this? Maximal element is D, minimal elements are A and B. Does a greatest element exist? Yes. What is it? B. Right? Does the minimum least element exist? No. Why? Because we don't have a relation between A and B. Similarly, what about this? Last one. What is the greatest element exist? Both exist. Greatest is D and smallest is A. Okay. Okay. Is that clear, class? Excellent. Okay, so tell me about these examples now. Suppose I define a set S, okay, and I give you the following poset: power set of S, and the relation is subset. Okay, can you tell me what is the greatest element if that exists, and the least element if that exists? Okay, the set is the power set of S, and the relation is subset. Excellent, Hasi. So, what are power set? Power set of a set consists of at least five set and all the combinations of the elements of set S and the set itself, right? So, the greatest element of this is, of course, the set itself S, and the smallest is 5. Very good. What about this next question? So, Irfika, this question should also clear your well ordered set doubt. Is there a greatest and least element for this? Positive integers and divisibility. Excellent. One we know is the least element because one divides all positive integers, right? But we don't know any other integer which is divided by, all, which divides or is divisible by all positive integers, right? So the least element is one, but we don't know anything about greatest element, right? So there are some more terminologies here, but since the time is over, I'll stop. In the next lecture, we'll try to finish up lattices, and then what is remaining is functions. Okay, although functions is not part of your syllabus, but there are some things which I want to discuss which would require functions. So we'll quickly skim through functions since I know you have studied it a lot of times. Okay, and we'll try to finish up your this first lecture module, right? So I'll stop there.